classic right there. Us is out on Blu-ray.
Just kidding, right?
Sorry. Us is out on Blu-ray and digital now, so I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to dissect something that's been on my mind since I first saw the film. The sophomore release from writer-director Jordan Peele is a horror thriller about a family that seems to be living their best lives until Adelaide Wilson, phenomenally played by Lupita Nyong'o in dual motherly roles, is forced to confront a past trauma. Meanwhile, The Shining, a seminal suspense horror film from the iconic writer-director Stanley Kubrick, also centers around a family that seems to have gotten their happily ever after until some repressed evil reemerges from the father, Jack Torrance / Nicholson.
Here's Johnny!
Both the Wilsons and the Torrances are a picture of the idyllic nuclear family, and both, like the 20th century's American dream, are built upon a suppressed past. However, with the filmography as varied as Kubrick's, the similarities between Us and The Shining are merely the entrance to the artistically inseparable maze of influence the icon has held over the industry for decades. So welcome to what will likely end up being a recurring series on Hollywood's original influencer, Stanley Kubrick. Let's get this out of the way.
Stanley Kubrick is one of the greatest American filmmakers of all time. He's the first director to make me notice the director, and if you ever get a chance to see one of his films on the big screen or at the museum exhibit, do it.
Everybody pretty much acknowledges he's the man.
With the filmmaker that started in 1951, there's a good chance a lot of other people have had a Kubrick experience, including Jordan Peele. Us is drenched wall to wall with film and pop culture references, the most obvious being The Shining. It's like Peele saw the Room 237 documentary and said, "Hold my beer." The opening shot of the film is a slow zoom of a semi-symmetrically composed frame within a frame of an old TV and other 80s stuff. So right off the bat, not only is Peele invoking two of Kubrick's signature stylings, the zoom and set design symmetry, but also on a Freudian level, some of the themes of the film, like how trauma, environment, and even the pop culture of our childhood shapes who we become as adults. Peele even took the homages and Easter eggs to the next level when, on the press junket for Us, he wore the same outfit as Jack Nicholson's in The Shining. Like, is everything okay, Jordan? Aside from zooms and center frame symmetry, Kubrick and his go-to cinematographer John Alcott's probably most known and consistent techniques have to be their use of practical lighting, one-point perspective, and patterns, or usually some combination. While he wasn't the first to mathematically compose a scene or use on-set lighting, he definitely staked a claim on the aesthetics. I mean, look at these walls of light from Eyes Wide Shut. Kitschy, yes, but evocative and dreamy, which was Kubrick's goal. Jordan Peele isn't the only one to cope these styles either. Wes Anderson takes it to the extreme, famously scrutinizing every inch of every tweed and pastel frame like in the very pretty, and filled with practicals, Grand Budapest Hotel. Or take for example the gorgeous cinematography of Roger Deakins in Blade Runner 2049, which is just dripping with symmetry and point perspective. Both films use the effects to achieve a beautifully eerie feel of a reality based on our own, yet altogether otherworldly. However, in the past few years, the Kubrickian style of mise-en-scène has been more prominent than ever before. So to understand why, we need to dive into the psychology of both Us and The Shining. Alright, so this is the part where I ask if you like this video to be sure to give it a thumbs up, ring that bell, and subscribe to my channel, the YouTube things. I really enjoy doing these little deep dives into movies, and if you do too, let me know. Leave a comment below with your favorite film or filmmaker that you'd like to see analyzed, but until then, on with the show. If we were to do some basic armchair psychoanalyzing, Peele's Us can be read as a fight for control between the id and the superego through what Freud calls the uncanny. While the central themes of Us were likely more intended to address classist divides in America,
We're Americans.
doppelganger, twin, and mirror imagery are undoubtedly prevalent throughout both The Shining and Us. To borrow the aforementioned Sigmund Freud's terms, the uncanny symbolizes our fear of something that feels familiar, yet is frighteningly foreign. The Shining does this through a family member slowly losing his sanity, and Us through doubles, aka the Tethered, who are undeniably damaged and deranged duplicates.
What are you people?
It's us.
Red represents a repressed subconscious of our darkest desires, and Adelaide would be the socially standard superego, trying to keep Red in check in the final act of the film. This is visually portrayed in the underground tunnels versus surface level America, but since both Adelaide and Red were switched at a young age, the familiar became uncanny, warping them both into killers. The performances in Kubrick's film are usually as equally powerful as the technical aspects, and Shelley Duvall's tortured role clearly paved the way to this inspired range from Lupita Nyong'o.
Shelley Duvall, shout out.
So much like the struggle between Jack going full id and Wendy doing her best superego survivalism, Red and Adelaide represent our inherent duality.
I think I was trying to suggest something about the duality of man, sir.
The what?
The duality of man, the Jungian thing, sir.
Whose side are you on, son?
Like the two sides of a coin or going through the looking glass, Carl Jung proposed humanity is divided by a thin line where reality is altered depending on your point of view. Symmetry is pleasing, sure, but symmetry in nature is rarely perfectly mirrored, although there are exceptions and examples for everything in life, don't at me. Or do, hit me up at hellmedia_ on Twitter if you can think of any other examples of some scary symmetry. Simply put, when we see such attention to detail in the manipulation of a scene, our hairs stand up. What I noticed upon repeat viewings of both Peele's and Kubrick's films was the element of symmetry isn't introduced until something goes wrong for our main characters. This means after Danny sees the twins for the first time, or when Chris first arrives at the Armitages in Get Out. It's subtle, but this existential dread and fear of the unknown is what Peele and Kubrick knew to toy with. In a separate but similar vein, just look at The Favorite, which uses wide-angle lenses and point perspective that Yorgos Lanthimos clearly nicked from Stanley's films. The beautiful halls with floor-to-ceiling windows blasting light are straight out of Paths of Glory and Barry Lyndon. Hell, even Christopher Nolan's Interstellar is a semi-love letter to the indelible 2001: A Space Odyssey.
One of his pictures are equivalent to 10 of somebody else.
Now all of this isn't to diminish the talented storytellers that have changed Hollywood in their own ways since Kubrick, but even the best take from the best, stand on the shoulders of giants, etc. These are artists experimenting with what can be done in conventional genres and cinematic composition, with the help of an incredible crew of course. The accessibility to better and cheaper technology allows for the kind of beautiful cinematography, set design, and even performances that in Kubrick's day would have ballooned his budget and challenged his reputation. However, much like the nostalgia for the 80s is approaching critical mass in today's zeitgeist, these techniques will fall in and out of fashion in favor of fresh framing and tasty new visions. Look no further than Mr. Robot's weirdly pretty lower thirds corner framing or the stylized camera moves of Upgrade and Children of Men to find unexplored cinematography styles. As potentially the first official sequel to one of Stanley's films, it'll be interesting to see if the upcoming Dr. Sleep will follow Kubrick's formatting or tread new cinematic ground.
I always called it The Shining.
That said, from a medium that centers around visual storytelling, there will always be innovation in imagery. A picture is worth 1,000 words after all. For these and so many more reasons, Hollywood will without a shadow of a doubt forever be indebted to how Stanley Kubrick shaped us.